I'm with Chirco Title Agency, and for those of you in the room that do not work in the real estate industry, I'm sure you're wondering, what the heck is title insurance? Because I've never heard of it. I have met people that have bought property, have owned a home, have sold a home, and they still didn't know what title insurance was. It's a very misunderstood product, and that's why I like talking at these events, so we can actually explain what it is, why we're there, and why it's so important. So title insurance, as the name states, is an insurance policy, but it's the complete opposite of any other insurance policy that you think of. Normally when we hear insurance, we think of car insurance, homeowners insurance, health insurance, and those things are insuring the future. Those insurance companies are taking a look at what risk there is that an event may happen in the future that would cause them to have to pay out a claim. And based off that risk, based off how much those events could cost them in claims, they come up with a premium amount that you pay, typically monthly, sometimes yearly, to cover that for the future. Title insurance, we insure the past. In very rare occasions, there are some products that do insure some future stuff, but for the most part, we are insuring the past on your property. And as Chandra had said, what we're looking at is we want to make sure that you own the property when you buy it, that no other owners are going to come out of the woodworks and say that they have a claim to this property, that you actually don't own it fully. We also want to make sure there's no liens on the property. What a lien is it's an obligation to pay someone, and it's basically saying that that house or that property is the collateral for that loan. So when you're signing a mortgage, for example, which is your most common lien, you're going to sign a mortgage, which is that document that gets recorded on the property, and that's saying that if I do not pay you back, you can either you can foreclose on my home, or when I do sell my home, I have to pay you back. You also then sign a note, and the note is what is actually enforceable to the lender to actually pay back. And so any mortgage that is recorded on that property is saying that they can take that house if you don't pay that mortgage, or when you sell it, you have to pay it off. So what do we do in title? How do we make sure that you don't have those things? So we perform what's called a title search. We're looking back. The standard in our industry is to look back 40 years, though our title insurance does cover the history of the property further back than that. And what we're looking for is every single time ownership has transferred from one person to another. So we're looking at every deed that has gone through and making sure that owner A went to B, who went to C, who went to D, and D is now our seller. The problem arises is when person A deeds to person B, but person C is our seller, and there's no deed to person C. You would be surprised how many times it actually happens that someone is selling a property and we find out they don't actually own the property. Usually it's simple. They have a deed that never got recorded. We find that deed, we record that deed, we fix the problem. Sometimes it's more difficult. Things happen. There's different ways to hold title. I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but based on how you hold title can sometimes cause a difference when you sell. There was an example that I like to use. I had a gentleman selling a property that he thought he owned fully, and we told him he owned half of the property, not the entire thing. He only owned 50%. What happened was his brother and his father owned the property together. His father passed away, and then his brother deeded to him. They thought that when his brother passed away, that property automatically became, his father passed away. They thought that that property immediately became his brother's fully. Because of the way they held title, it didn't actually do that. It stayed in his father's estate. They actually had to go through probate, which is a court system, to decide what happens to that property before they could actually sell it and assign it to the other person. So there's a lot of things that can happen that are red flags that we as your title agent will find and then help you fix. Once we figure everything out, we make sure we know exactly what's going on with that property.
Phenomenal job of breaking down a lot of the why, because it's a protection. The seller is saying they are the rightful seller, that there are no clouds on title. And what clouds on title reference, and what Peter already talked about, would be contractor liens, IRS liens, state tax liens, in that the seller is the rightful seller of the house. So after a closing, what would happen? You are provided the owner's policy, like Peter said. There are times that a claim comes up. So you may close at a real estate office, or you may close at a title company. There is the owner's policy that you get, that Matt's going to talk about in a second, is written on an underwriter's paper. So when I'm talking to people in the industry, I say it's almost like us shopping for our car insurance. We might go to State Farm, and State Farm is just State Farm. Or we might go to an independent that is going to write on multiple different insurance carriers' paperwork. So, for example, Peter works for a title agency. They write on Fidelity National Title paper. Matt works for First American, who is also an underwriter. So when there's a claim that comes up, and claims typically happen about 5 years after a closing occurs, they're big dollar amounts. When we all go to buy a home, it's usually our biggest financial decision that we're making. And this protection is so important because it's all things that we don't think about in our day-to-day. So the insurance company, when they take your claim, is actually paying the attorney to fight that claim for you. They are then going to go after and they're going to reimburse you any costs if your claim, obviously they're going to take the claim, it's a valid claim, but they're going to do the fighting for you. Those attorneys are going to go pay out of pocket, the insurance company's pockets, try to make you whole. And then if maybe at closing, the seller's affidavit, somebody did something fraudulent, the insurance company then.
So my part here in the title explanation is what is title and what type of title do I want. So in real estate, it's different than personal property. When we talk about property, I say real property. I'm talking about condos. I'm talking about land. I'm talking about buildings. Something that we call real property. Now, with personal property, we exchange ownership via a title, a certificate of title. In your car, you see you have a green title or a pink slip. If you have a trailer, you may have a certificate of origin. But what puts you in title to your home or your land? And it's who the government says. So how do we make those transfers? They make them through deeds or court orders or through a judgment. In the business, we mostly come across deeds, and there are different types of deeds. We have special warranty deeds, covenant deeds, regular warranty deeds, quitclaim deeds, fiduciary deeds, trustee deeds. And for the sake of this event today, we're working with first-time home buyers, and we're trying to educate. So generally speaking, when you're writing or accepting a purchase contract, you're going to want to get a warranty deed. And what that is the seller signing this document saying, I warrant everything that's on this property, that is mine, I'm warranting to you. Quitclaim deed is something that you might do in between family members. My interest in the property, I quitclaim it to you. So that is the general differences in the types of deeds. Now the title, they all have the same results. They all have the same result. They're gonna change title from one person to another. And I'll come across situations where somebody might call me and say, well, I can't sell my house with a warranty deed because I got it on a quitclaim deed. It's not true. You can still sell it on a warranty deed. That's just the type of instrument that the conveyance was done with. So piggybacking on what Kathy and Peter said, as a title company, we're ensuring that those transfers were done and done correctly because we want to make sure that these buyers have the ability for what we call their use and enjoyment of that property.